Hi, Lisa Marie Kosis, founder of Global One Health. As a reminder, my website is globalOneHealth.com, one spelled out, or Global One Fitness. Either will take you to the site. It just gives you a bit more idea about my background, my teaching experience, my philosophy of movement. So feel free to check that out. In today's video, I want to talk about an exercise called bird dogs. It's similar in its function as the exercise that I did in the previous video called dead bugs. Both exercises are done predominantly to focus on activation of the core, to create stability of the spine and the trunk structure, while adding movement of your shoulder and hip joints, right, your upper and lower extremities, right, so the movement there to create the load in the core and in the trunk and spine. So the difference is their relationship to gravity. Dead bugs are done on the back, and you move your arms and legs respectively in opposite directions. Bird dogs are done on the hands and knees. So they're, in a sense, a progression of the exercise, because when you're doing dead bugs on your back, the ground is supporting the spine completely. When you're in bird dogs and you're on the hands and knees, it's a little bit more of a progression, because now you have to support yourself with your arms and your shoulders and your wrists, right? So you're getting the benefit of loading the upper extremities, which are the arms, right? You're loading the shoulder, elbow, and wrist joints, which is good for people that are concerned with getting osteoporosis. Weight-bearing exercises are very good for improving bone density, especially in the older population. But you want to start at any age to get weight-bearing exercises for your arms. That's very, very important. So, as always, I'm going to show you, I think this idea is good. I'm going to show you what the final variation of the exercise looks like, but I want to always go back and show you what regressions for this exercise and other exercises in future videos are, so that you have an idea of what are your starting points, and then how do you progress the exercise to make it more challenging to get to that final variation of the exercise with the utmost form, proper technique, and that's going to ensure safety and maximum benefit of the exercise. So you're going to begin on the hands and knees. Okay, so as always, just a quick reference, right, when we're doing the, depending on the exercise, but with bird dogs, you want to line yourself up. So notice my shoulders are in a straight line, vertically stacked, shoulders over elbows over wrists, and my hips are vertically stacked over my knees. I'm going to go ahead and dorsiflex my feet to have a little bit more activation of the foot structure into the ground. As always, I do not want to sink into my shoulder joints. I want to use the power of my bones to support me, which is what we want, right? The bones are taking over that vertical load to support the body, but the muscles of the rib cage and trunk should also be activated to support the shoulder joint and the shoulder structure. Okay? So, also, as always, I want to be in that gripped position of my hand. My hand is not flat. I'm gripping the fingertips into the ground, so the mid-knuckles come up a little bit, but the base of my hand is into the ground, and the center of my palm is almost trying to pull up as well. Always having energy going in opposite directions will give you a little bit more control and power and strength in your movements. So I'm gripping the hands, I'm corkscrewing my elbows into my body and pulling my shoulders into my ribs. I'm pushing myself away, and I'm planting my feet down. So that is what's happening in the bone structure. Pelvic floor is engaging my pelvic clock, pulling my pubic bone, tailbone, and sits bones together. My abdominal wall is engaged as well. So a bird dog basically is I'm going to extend one arm and leg out, straight out. I have a table here. I can't get this other arm up quite as high, but you're trying to get one arm and the opposite leg parallel to the floor and ceiling, or extend it out. Coming back in, I'll show you on the other side. This is what it should look like. Yep. I'm trying to create almost a table with my moving arm and my moving leg and my spine. So now a few things, right? So if I'm doing this exercise and I take my arm out and I start to shift, right? Shifting out here, right? If you see, if you're doing this, that's absolutely incorrect, right? You don't want to shift your body from side to side as you alternate reps or alternate sides with your arm and leg in the air, right? So that shouldn't happen. So knowing what muscles need to engage is the whole premise of why I'm doing these educational instructional videos, to set you up for maximum success. So the basic regression, and if you can do these, perfectly or as cleanly as possible with no shifting, then you know you're ready to progress to the next variation. Okay, so now if I'm in this position, right, I set myself up, core is activated, feet are activated. Can I take one hand off of the floor without shifting at all? That's my primary goal. Can I achieve that, right, without shifting sideways, right? I'm not shifting. I take one hand off, no shifting. So if I can do that successfully, right, then I'm ready for the next variation, which is taking a leg and a knee off. Again, it doesn't have to be high, right? In the beginning, you're just assessing your ability to take one leg off the floor. Again, no shifting. I take my leg off without shifting. If I can successfully do that, I put those two movements together. Can I then take one leg and the opposite hand off the ground? Right? I test that. And if I could do that, then I keep progressing. Now, if you notice at any point in these variations that you start to shift, here are some things you want to be thinking about. Obviously, pelvic floor activation, the energy of the abdominal wall pulling in towards the center of your body. Focus not so much on the limb that's lifting. I want you to think about focusing on the limbs that are staying down. Again, I've referenced the ground is a very important base of support, but it's also a great source of resistance. And if you learn how to work against the ground, it is critically important and going to prove very valuable in so many weight-bearing exercises. Obviously, ones like planks. You know, I'm certified in animal flow. The whole basic premise of animal flow, it's all body weight. And when you learn how to resist the ground and push against it and let it be a source of resistance, it will give you great feedback and the ability to learn how to use resistance if you don't have access, especially in times what we are right now in this pandemic, right? If we don't have access to gym equipment, all we need is the ground in our bodies in a very, very basic setting if you have no props or you're traveling on, if we can get back to normal life, right? Traveling on a business trip or on vacation and you just want to do a quick workout, but you don't have access to any equipment. Body weight is great for that. So learn how to use the ground and push against it. So if I can keep myself grounded and rooted and anchored down, think about if I'm going to lift up my right hand and my left leg, right? The opposite hand and leg have to push down harder. So I want to think about driving this left arm into the ground and the right leg so that I can lift these other limbs up. Another thing I like to think about, if you think of those banded exercises, putting the band around your knee, if you have the intention, doesn't mean that you're going to move your legs wider, but if you think about the intention, right, of pushing the knees outward, right, it's going to activate your lateral glutes. So when doing sagittal plane movement, forward and back movement, yes, you want the quads and the glutes and the front of the hips to work because those are the movers, the prime movers of the exercise. What creates stability is learning how to activate the muscle structures that are not the prime movers, which means they are the stabilizers. So when in this position, if I want to lift up my leg and not shift, right? If I want to lift up this leg, I'll move this arm out of the way. This leg, right? I'm going to lift this one up. This leg becomes my anchor. I'm pushing this leg into the ground and out in energy so I can lift this leg up without shifting. Same thing other side. This leg is going to push down and out in energy so I can lift this leg up. So understand or know that the lateral glutes are very, very important stabilizers of the pelvis for all exercises. So many exercises that are done in unilateral load, right? One leg at a time, right? So I want to be pushing my legs into the ground and out, turning on the lateral glutes, of course, keeping everything else engaged. So then another variation you can practice with both hands down. One hand off is the easiest of the modifications or the regressions. The leg is the next one. So what you want to do from here is you want to slide the leg out. Just practice this drill, right? So you're using both feet pushing into the ground, but if I want to slide my one leg out, I'm going to activate that glute. I'm going to push the stationary leg into the floor to create more tension in that thigh and hip. Then I don't just passively take my leg out, right? I'm pushing the ball of the foot down like a bull trying to dig a trench, right? A track. I'm pushing the ball of my foot into the ground, reaching the heel, this heel, back, so it's not like this, less stability. I'm going to really push my heel and reach it back, as well as push the ball down to get glute activation here. Right, so that's a variation you can try, extending just one leg, keeping both arms down. Then from here, you want to think about activating the, now I'm going to take my, if I take this foot off, I'm now going to use my glutes to lift my leg. So I'm not just lifting the leg passively. I want to squeeze and activate my glutes in the back to pull my leg up while driving my arms more down into the ground. Now, do note, if you lift up your left leg, because of the nature of the human body is we are designed to move in opposition, opposite arm and leg is how we walk, right? So if I lift up my left leg, my right arm is going to be freer. Automatically, more weight will go into the down arm of the leg in the air. That's just, you will feel that physics-wise. It's just going to happen, right? So be mindful of that and use that force energy. Corkscrew harder on the down arm, right? So really corkscrew, pack my shoulders into my rib cage, slide that leg out. Now I know when I lift up this foot of the extended leg, this arm is my support arm. I push harder into the ground to get that up. Then I can also then add the extension of the arm out, right? But the key is not to shift. Use those lateral glutes. So in closing, why I think that bird dogs are such a great exercise is, again, you're keeping the spine stable. There should be no movement of the back, no shifting sideways. You're getting core activation to create spinal stability. You're getting mobility in the shoulders and hips and knees and ankles. You're introducing weight bearing to the shoulder girdle, to the upper extremity structure. Relationship to gravity, don't let the belly relax, pull the belly in away from gravity. But you're also training opposite arm and leg movement. It is a natural human pattern. That is how people run, right? Opposite arm and leg. So you're training, again, using the ground for support. These positions are designed to be great for, again, warm-up drills, very frequently given in physical therapy and in rehab situations. So they're safe because you're on the ground. You have a little bit more basic support. There are ways, if you feel discomfort in your wrist, you can take a towel and slightly fold it underneath to just raise the level of the wrist up an inch. If you're doing it on a yoga mat, roll the yoga mat a couple times to create just a little bit of cushion. And you don't want to put the whole hand under this extra cushion. Just the base of the heel of your hand is, you raise that up a little bit. It'll take a little bit of pressure off of your wrist joints, if that is a factor. Another modification is to take a dumbbell and hold the dumbbells in your hand this way, right? So you'll need a dumbbell that's probably, this is a 7. That's about the smallest weight that's probably going to serve the purpose. If it's too small or lightweight of a dumbbell, it just won't give you the space that you need for your hand. But if the wrist, weight bearing on the wrist is actually an issue, then you want to address that, and that's important. So you want to take a pair of dumbbells, hold the dumbbell in your hand like you would, and put it down this way. And then from the front view, your wrist is in neutral. So you're taking out the wrist factor. Just an important note to mention for people that have weight-bearing issues, or it bothers them to be on their wrists or on their hands and knees for any extended period of time. Also, if you have a hard floor that you're working on, and that is also can be uncomfortable to have the knee cap or the knee bone. You're not really on the knee cap, but to have the bones of the knees against wood, if you don't have a cushion, a mat, or a little carpet, take a bath towel or a thin, soft structure and just put it under the knees if you need a little bit of cushion or padding between the knee bones and the hard surface that you're working on, if that is a factor as well. So the wrist and knees, just 2 minor points, but worth addressing when we're talking about safety and comfort. Obviously, if you're in pain in the position, you can't work on the exercise properly if you're distracted by these other things. So again, worth mentioning, but I think bird dogs and bed bugs, again, check that out video if you haven't seen it, are great exercises. They're teaching you how to move your limbs, creating core activation and spine stability. 2 very important things. If you cannot stabilize your spine, supporting yourself and just your body, how can you possibly do it in squats and deadlifts and other more advanced movements, right? Loaded movements, or even just push-ups, right? You have to have tension in the body when you're doing a push-up, and there shouldn't be movement in the spine. So you want to learn how to activate your core and load your joint structures safely, and then you can always progress to more advanced exercises. So that's how to do the bird dogs.